If you're relocating to Charlotte area, Fort Mill is one of the places you're going to hear recommended over and over again. Why? Well, it has great schools, lower South Carolina taxes, and close proximity to Charlotte. But what most relocation buyers don't realize is that Fort Mill is not just one simple location on a map. Your experience here can change dramatically depending on what section you choose, how often you commute to Charlotte, and the type of neighborhood and lifestyle you expect. So in this video, we're going to walk through the map, the key pockets people actually move to, and how to think about Fort Mill before you start touring homes. And if you're relocating to Charlotte or Fort Mill, grab our free relocation guide below. It walks you through how to plan this move strategically instead of reactively. Let's jump into the map.
All right, so here we are on the map section of this tour, and I'm super excited to continue to give you some feedback on what you should expect in your move. Now, this may not be important right now, but it's going to be important at some point when you come down here to learn more about just geographically how things are mapped out. So I'm just going to carve out real quick the South Carolina, North Carolina line, right? And the reason why is because when you come down here, you're going to want to know at what point you're in South Carolina, all right? I think that'll be helpful to have. I know your GPS is going to do all the thinking for you, but Fort Mill is located just right here, right? Just right in here, right? So a lot of the things we're going to be talking about is just geographically how your commute should look. So let's start with how does it look going to like SouthPark or all right? Now, Ballantyne is located in the Charlotte area. So I'm just going to circle Ballantyne for us real quick here, just so you can have an idea what that commute should look like. And it's fairly simple, but coming off the map, it does help significantly because if you're new here, you don't know how long things will take, right? That commute should take you 15 minutes, right? I mean, looking at the map, it's fairly short distance. Now, the other is going into the likes of South Charlotte, right? South Charlotte is one of the main shopping hubs of North Carolina. And, people frequent it quite often. And when they go there, they have a tendency to hang out and check out the SouthPark Mall. Now, from Fort Mill, you can do one of two things. You can continue your route into the likes of, say, the 77, right, which will take you right into SouthPark, all right? Or, maybe you're hanging out in Ballantyne, all right, but you can literally from here jump on the 45 here, or maybe you take your ride into from the 77 and you can cut through Pineville, you can cut through and jump on the 51, right? Which will put you on the 16. So, already just multiple ways of getting to your destination. Obviously, if none of these highways are going to work for you, which I've done in the past, I just took the local routes, just going through turns, taking, believing in the GPS, right? It does work, right? And just getting in the likes of SouthPark, where I've had to meet clients, and it was time sensitive. The other is the likes of Uptown Charlotte. What is that commute like for you? Now, it's really not that different, but what I do, again, really appreciate about living here is that there are multiple ways of getting to your destination. There's no one or two ways of doing it. So coming out of Fort Mill again, so long as I can hit this 480, I can jump on the 49. I could stay on the 77, which got me to SouthPark to begin with. I could jump on the 45 and, head into the Providence area that you see outlined here, and then take 16 in. So there's multiple ways. And I think that's why this city has garnered so much activity and so much growth, is because there are just so many things so many ways of getting around. And mind you, we haven't talked about rush hour yet, but we will get to that. And I know that I can feel you guys wonder what that experience must be like. And you know what? Rush hour is rush hour, all right? But it never lasts forever. So stay with me until we talk a little bit more about those commutes. So the next thing I want to talk about Fort Mill is that it's primarily accessed through the 77. You already can see that already. That is pretty much the main corridor for this city over here, or this town. And One of the reasons why people love Fort Mill, other than just its, the suburban hospitality that it really has great schools, and it has a very strong suburban job market in the sense that many people who live here, they have a tendency to either be hybrid, they're remote, but if they are commuting every day into, let's say, Uptown Charlotte for that matter, it can be a little rough, it'll be a little wearisome, right? But if you are understanding just how the commute times are with rush hour, you might be able to work through a solution that fits your schedule where you're not in as much traffic because you're either leaving later or you're leaving a bit earlier before things take off. And that's generally around the 3 p.m. timeline. You'll start seeing some more activity. Once it hits 4 p.m., it's kind of full blown rush hour. And then by 5 o'clock, you're in the midst of it. So just something to keep in mind. So with everything that I just shared with you, for many of the relocation buyers that I've worked with and spoken to, this has a tendency to be the deciding factor. And why? Because, I mean, you have so much that you want to consider, which is, accordingly, lifestyle first. And being able to connect with these points of interest is important, especially as it goes with the ones that you have to frequent, which is, going to work if you must every day, or even if it's a hybrid schedule. So this is a very essential diagram, I believe, that will give you the information you're going to need to make that informed decision, understanding the commute times between the Ballantynes, between the SouthParks, Uptown Charlotte, and the airport over here. So, and we haven't even gotten into the lake yet, which is just right here, just adjacent to Fort Mill. So, yeah, that's literally no more than maybe a 8 to 10 minute drive, I want to say, going through Tega Cay. And so you're really just getting a lot of bang for your buck here in the Fort Mill community. Schools are very strong. It's one of the most strongest schools in that of South Carolina. Let's zoom in and talk about the actual pockets people have a tendency to move into, because Fort Mill is not just one uniform experience. Two buyers relocating here could have completely different lifestyles depending on which section they choose. So let's dive in a little more into some of these points of interest here in the Fort Mill community, one of which is known as Baxter Village. Okay, now if you've never been to Baxter Village, one of the things you're going to notice right away is just how, I don't know, how calming this community is. When I say calming, I mean like you can definitely do things like get coffee, you'll see people running, walking their dogs, and it really just has like that city within a city kind of atmosphere, because you really don't have to leave the community to get some of the things love, and enjoy. For example, in the short stay that I had there with a client of mine to buy a home, they loved the fact that they were able to walk their dog, and upon walking their dog, they can literally sit in the park and drink coffee without getting in their car at no time. So this is something that I think most buyers are gravitating to. They want to get from their car and get back into walking. And this is the kind of community that can do that for you. Now, the homes here often command a slightly higher price per square foot because of that lifestyle component. So something that you want to keep in mind if you are interested in learning more about this community. So if you're relocating from a planned community or areas with neighborhood centers, Baxter Village often feels the most familiar. All right. Now let's go into downtown Fort. All right. I'm going to put that in on the map here so we can walk that together. Downtown Fort Mill. All right. So downtown Fort Mill is literally just down the way from Baxter Village. It's really not far at all. So just to highlight it on the map here, let me get the pen out. Downtown Fort Mill is literally like right there. All right. You can literally, can't say it's not walking distance. You definitely want to drive there, but it's really just a short commute to Fort Mill downtown. And there you're going to find that there are a series of shops. Like if you look at my left side here, you got the Crossing Main, which is a gift shop. You got the Market, which sells clothes and the seasonal items and kitchen items. And then you have the Broad Book Boutique, to name a few. So definitely something to revisit right? When you come down here to look around and just get a feel for the place, definitely take a stop into the downtown Fort Mill community. There's a lot of entrepreneurship there, and it's a very quaint downtown. So I would recommend you check it out and try something different. Now, for buyers who want proximity but still appreciate local character, this section can be very appealing. Now, let's jump over to Tega Cay. All right, Tega Cay is on the other side of Fort Mill. All right, now Tega Cay is one of the most pursued communities in the Carolinas just because of its proximity again. So it also has a lake life, which people love. Like anything near water has a tendency to get a lot of attention. There's a golf course, there's elevations through neighborhoods, meaning that homes look the same. There's a lot of diversity in the homes that you walk or that you drive through in those communities. And it has a very different feel compared to that of the central side of Fort Mill. You're going to find there are more winding roads, water influence, like I mentioned earlier, and just a resort style of lifestyle. So much so that we're seeing lots of activity for communities that are up and coming, such as the Grove. And the reason why is because master plan communities have a tendency to garner the most impressions. People want to be in a master plan community. They love the idea of having, the community pools, the sidewalks, the amenity centers, obviously the HOA. We can't do without the HOA, and just modern layouts. Those open floor concepts that are going to allow you to really connect with you and your family. Just to recap, the communities that we've talked about: the Baxter Village, Fort Mill, downtown, and now Tega Cay. And these are just the pockets, just a few of the different pockets that exist in the Fort Mill community. And I know that Tega Cay and I know that downtown Fort Mill are areas you do have to drive to, and they can take a couple of minutes. But because they're so close in proximity, you're really talking about 10 minutes tops. So definitely check it out. These places tend to attract relocation buyers who want that suburban structure. This could be you. And the areas that are finding the most kind of suburban appeal have the measure of schools that are ranked anywhere between, I don't know, a 7 and a 10. Now, I don't talk about schools, right? But you got to do your research, all right? Why? Because I sell real estate, and school districts have a tendency to shift on occasion, not the way homes do. Okay, so I definitely recommend you do that. So guys, let's talk a little bit more about new construction communities in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Now, reason why I really want to touch on this is because there is a community or a corridor of communities that are popping up, one of which that are master plan communities. Now, if you've ever heard or been in a master plan community, what you are going to find is that it had some of the things that I want to say that most relocation buyers are looking for, obviously to get most bang for their buck. They're looking for pools, sidewalk, amenity centers. Obviously, these things will be managed by the HOA, and a variety of home layouts, floor plans, or just a diversity of exterior designs to make the community that much more unique. So this is something that I find that many of my buyers are coming in from different parts of the state, and these are the things that they're looking for because it's either not available to them or something that they're accustomed to and want to continue. So let's talk about 3 that I know of that will fit that description. Now, I'm not saying that you should check these communities out because I'm mentioning here in this video, but what I really want to highlight is the importance in recognizing a master plan community when you see one. So we're going to start with the Massey community. Now, the Massey community, I'm just going to highlight that so that we can make it out. It's a pretty large community here. It doesn't do it justice that I'm so close here. Let me pull back just a hair so you can identify that a little better. But this Massey community it's fairly large. I want to say maybe somewhere between 300 to 400 homes. And what you really want to identify when you come to a community like this is just the things like I identified earlier, which is the community pools, the sidewalks, and the modern home layouts and the HOA management. Now, many people feel indifferently about HOAs. I prefer to have them. There's always something for everyone. If you don't want an HOA community, I totally get it, but it does have its benefits as well. The other is known as the Elizabeth community. Now, I'm just going to peel back just so you guys can get a feel for where this community sits. It's not really, let me get rid of that little footprint I drew there. But yeah, we're talking about this right here in relation to where we are in South Carolina. So just above, it's literally just above the likes of downtown Fort Mill. You can literally commute from here, into downtown Fort Mill, which is looks like about 20 minutes ride, so to speak. You can get to parts of Charlotte. You can get to, and when I say parts of Charlotte, I'm referring to the likes of, say, Charlotte. Let's see, let me find Massey again. Yeah, that's better. So from here, I can find the Massey community here. You can see it already. Ideally, I love the way that they recognize that it has an HOA club, it has a community pool. Not all communities that have the that have a pool are master plan communities. So that's something to recognize. They may just have portions of a master plan community, but this community right here, what makes it very special is that it's still very local to some of the things that people like to go and do or to visit. One of them being downtown Fort Mill, hanging out by the lake over here in Tega Cay, or really just steps away from the likes of Ballantyne over here. So I want to just highlight that so you guys can have something to reference when you come down here to visit. Now, forgive all these shapes here. These are really not my best drawings, but I think that someone watching this is going to feel relieved knowing that there's something that they can reference. And this is a really great opportunity to just really know how to identify that master plan community. Now, talk a little bit more about who a master plan community is possibly not good for, right? Now, someone who does not want an HOA, right? I want to say 100% of the time, you're going to find that most master plan communities are going to have an HOA. Even if it just has a pool, you're going to find that it's going to need to be maintained. And well, the only way to do that is with an HOA budget. All right. The other community is known as the Elizabeth community, which is also just steps away, and the Waterside community. Okay. These other two are master plan communities as well. They're large homes and large communities. The lot size in a HOA community will be a lot different than a community that does not have an HOA. So, in a community that does not have an HOA, you'll find that they have maybe lots somewhere around, 0.25 of an acre, whereas a community HOA is going to be probably around 0.16 on average, sometimes even less, but 0.16 on average, and can tend to maybe be as much as maybe 0.38. I've seen as much as a half an acre, but in today's market, we're just seeing things shift a little bit if it's a new construction. Now, if it was built maybe 5 years ago, you have a good chance of getting something that has a much larger square footage. For example, the home that I purchased was built maybe back in 2016, and it's on 0.16 of an acre. So yeah, it just depends on the builder, what they're doing, and how the demand is looking for that region. So, it's always good to be first. So let's jump into the next thought, which is, again, just identifying what you're looking for in a master plan community. So next, I want to talk a little bit about things to do in the Fort Mill area. I've got some things highlighted over here. You can see here, I'm referring to the Ann Springs Greenway is pretty dang phenomenal. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's so many things to do in this greenway. So just so you know, it's a 2,100 acre natural preserves. And it has from, let's say, kayaking, obviously to hiking, right? But you have kayaking, hiking, paddleboarding, you got fishing. So it's really just that family-friendly park of 2,100 acres of for you to take in and just really enjoy. And then the reviews are pretty dang solid. I mean, like 683 positive reviews of 4.6 stars on Google. So definitely something to do. If you look at these icons here, basically tells you everything in a nutshell. You got the hiking, you got the preserve, you got that little house there. It looks like a little some maybe beverages. Yeah, so you're seeing a lot here that you can do with the kiddos, especially during those spring breaks when you're trying to figure out like, hey, what to do. Yeah, you go to Ann Springs and you do something there. And then after, you go to the Kingsley. Let's pull that up on the map. So if you've never been to the Kingsley, it is one of Fort Mill's standout mixed use destinations, I'll call it. Why? Because it just has a host of things to do. It has dining, shopping, offices, apartments, hotels, and a walkable area. It even has a small lake. It's pretty dang phenomenal what they've done here. So I'm just going to circle that for us so you can see what I'm referring to. But it just has a host of things to do. You can look at this as almost like your outdoor mall. And if you do go, man, you got to check out this is great Indian restaurant, not showing up here on the map, but it's literally, I'm going to point to it. It's literally right here. Literally right here. That's an arrow, by the way. Yeah. It's a great Indian restaurant here. Check it out. The name escapes me, but amazing. Pretty dang good if you like Indian. Yeah, so this is just one place that is really convenient to find. It's right off of 160. And as you can see, the highway 77, you can definitely get onto the highway from here as well. Something you definitely want to check out. When I go, I definitely like to eat and then hang out by this lake area over here. There is also a commercial. There's also a commercial designation as well.
So who does Fort Mill typically work best for? Fort Mill tends to attract a lot of relocation buyers who want suburban structure while still being connected to Charlotte. It's usually a strong fit if you are a relocating family prioritizing organized suburban communities, someone interested in newer construction homes, a hybrid or remote professional working in Charlotte, or lastly, comfortable with the South Carolina property structure. However, Fort Mill may be less ideal if you commute daily to Uptown Charlotte during peak traffic hours, you want dense nightlife or urban walkability, or you prefer a city center lifestyle. Now, Fort Mill is a suburban first community. Charlotte is where most of the urban energy still sits. Now let's talk about general price expectations. Fort Mill is no longer the value pay it was many years ago because of schools, reputation, consistent relocation demand. Prices have increased significantly. Right now, you'll typically see townhomes starting in the mid to high 300s and climbing. Single-family homes commonly in the mid 400s into the 700s, and new construction frequently starting in the 500,000 range depending on location. Pricing varies dramatically depending on the pocket and the community. But overall, relocation demand has kept Fort Mill firmly on many buyers' shortlists. Now, this video focused on the layout and orientation of Fort Mill. In the next video, we break down the real pros and cons of living in Fort Mill, what people love about the area, and what tends to surprise buyers after they move. So if you're seriously considering, give us a call. Stay blessed by the best.